Hello there and welcome back. It is a great time to be in EDD 811, Assessment and Data Driven Decision Making. This is Module 5. And in this module, we're going to focus on how assessment and evaluation get done in organizational contexts. We will carefully consider how these two, assessment and evaluation, come together and they're implemented practically within educational and organizational settings in ways that help us understand the impact of interventions as well as organizational health and effectiveness. The learning activities for this week will provide opportunities for you to apply theory to practice, reading to practice, and then pay attention to some key principles applied to your capstone. The module at a glance calls attention to our learning objectives for this week, or by the end of this week, you should be able to explain the processes and methodologies of assessment and evaluation within organizational contexts. You should be able to illustrate how these processes are implemented in various educational and organizational settings, especially for intervention testing and organizational change and effectiveness. And then finally, assess the effectiveness of different assessment and evaluation models or approaches used in organizations. And then we have some videos, reading, and of course, our weekly discussion forum and assignment. Uh, this builds upon what we have really come to know about improvement science as a data driven change process. So, before going further in the video, I encourage you to pause and hop over to YouTube and watch this explainer video about organizational assessment and effectiveness. Okay, hopefully you took time to watch that video carefully, and what it calls our attention to is really important as we sort of layer it to look at aspects of this week's work. Now, when we think about the reading for this week, you're going to spend some time with Macomb and Leiden, maybe it's Lydon, um, looking at their chapter on understanding the effectiveness and impact of student success interventions on campus. This particular writing is actually situated in a 2-year community college, and they do a pretty good job and a useful job of really helping us understand the shift from 2-year community colleges being chiefly and primarily concerned with issues of access to paying more attention to what's happening with student success. And so um, I encourage you to think through and read that. Assessment and evaluation are really critical components of understanding the impact and the effectiveness of interventions in educational and organizational settings. What we now know, having covered this for several weeks and seeing the parts and pieces coming together, is that by systematically collecting and analyzing data, leaders can make informed decisions that help drive continuous improvement. I offer the example in this week's lesson of a school district in Nashville that could use assessment data to evaluate the effectiveness of a new literacy program, using that information to identify areas for refinement and ensuring the program delivers the desired student outcomes. And to drill down a bit on that, I offer you a link to the Metro Nashville Public Schools site. I encourage you to click the link or activate the link and peruse their site to learn a little bit more about what they are doing in the way of literacy. And then I offer an infographic like image by Infotech that really highlights 6 sort of literacy skills. These are mostly data literacy skills that range from knowing and interpreting to recognizing and thinking critically. And so, if we were to take this sort of case study, as it were, and consider some meaningful reflection questions, one of them could be how school districts can use assessment data to identify areas for improvement within literacy programs, especially now that we understand some of the literacy learning domains. So give yourself a few minutes, pause the video, think through these questions, and then we'll resume. The authors then go on to talk about improvement really requires measures that operationalize a working theory of improvement, theory of change, measures that are specific to the work processes that are the object of change, as well as measures that have formative value. So as you read through what McComb and Leinen have in their chapter, I encourage you to think about um, the Achieving the Dream student success improvement effort that is described toward the beginning of the chapter to understand what that is about, the role that coaches play, as well as paying attention to the three evaluation models that they describe for you. And now take time to read Cameron's critical questions in assessing organizational effectiveness. In this piece, it's a little dated, but I included it intentionally because I think these questions are perennial. That is, they serve us over the course of time. You want to think about what domain of activity should be the focus of an evaluation, what perspective or which constituency's point of view should be considered, what level of analysis should be used, what time frame should be employed, type of data that should be collected and used, and then what reference should be employed. Consider these 6 critical questions when thinking through and developing your problem of practice. In this week's discussion and assignment, you have that opportunity. So in the lesson plan, I raise a reflection question. How can you, as a colleague or doctoral student, leverage assessment and evaluation to understand the impact of your work or the proposed intervention within educational and organizational context? So think about your problem of practice that you've been working on and consider the ways that assessment and evaluation can be helpful in understanding the impact of that on the outcomes under study. In keeping with this week's module, be sure to consider some of the data sources that you might access or need to mine in order to assess and evaluate the intervention or change idea that's at the center of your problem of practice. And then also, as you think about the data sources, then that gives you some insight into the kinds of methods for analysis or the kinds of methods that will be effective in analyzing that kind of data. And then you can give some thought to some feedback loops that allow you to take the data, analyze it, learn, gain insights, and then revise or alter the policy, practice, or program in ways that stand a better chance of achieving the outcomes you desire. And then taking that information and feeding it right back into the same cycle. Again, PDSA. So, as we wrap up, then you get an opportunity this week to really align your thoughts and writing with, or notes rather, about assessment and evaluation, improvement science with each other in ways that help us understand how this is really practically implemented within organizational contexts. And by regularly evaluating the effectiveness of programs and initiatives, it really does empower us as educational leaders to make evidence-based decisions or data-driven decisions, keeping with the title of this course, to refine our strategies and to maximize the value for others. And in this module, the discussion forum really presents an opportunity to think about the work that we're sort of deeply engaged in this module. And that is one, taking the McComb and Liddon article and really walking through some questions like naming 2 benefits of factors associated with the importance of evaluation, all the way down to really thinking about the 3 evaluation models in juxtaposition with your own problem of practice. And then the assignment for this week will provide an opportunity for you to really take the problem of practice and drill down into description and summarization of key components. As you move through the week, consider the information in Canvas, the module readings, the videos, as well as the textbook. When all else fails, reach out to your instructor. Take good care of yourself. Until next week.